The King of Beasts versus the King of Dragons. The world's strongest creature versus the world's strongest slayer. It only makes sense that after existing together in two long-running shonen competitors for so long as these endgame level big bads, that the two of them would inevitably be pitted against one another. But be it their visual similarities, their contentious claims to be number one in the verse, or just simply the fact that neither could find a challenge to end it all until they did, the two share some surprising parallels for sure. But with Kaido's relevance in the anime at an all-time high, I can't see any better time to cover this as our very first fairy tale and One Piece matchup. And for this one, we're going all out, as I'm going to give you every last bit of viable scaling I've found for these two powerhouses, and explain my thoughts on this matchup as a whole. If you end up liking it though, be sure to hit that big red button, since the faster I get monetized, the faster you, dear viewer, get to have the content you want to see. Put that out of the way though, keep in mind that we'll be using the base forms of these characters, so no drunk Kaido and definitely no space between time Acno. And this is Kaido versus Acnologia. To start things off, let's talk about Acnologia first, since I've given my fair share of thoughts on general high tier One Piece scaling in a few prior videos. And for Acno, we can start all the way back at his introduction, as from even the very first panels we see of Acnologia on screen, he strikes fear into the hearts of all but the very first master of Fairy Tail herself. With even just his casual morning sneezes being able to utterly obliterate all of Tenro Island while absurdly suppressed, to the point of not even trying. This gets to the point that even Zeref himself is showing fear at the idea of having to fight him. And while I could easily keep you going back and forth about just how high this Dragon Slayer flies, it's just pretty blatant for anyone who's read the series that Acnologia, even in base, short of all but those at the very top, is the strongest. Etherion Blast, a weapon which can wipe out entire countries, nothing to him. All the Spriggan 12, each literally written to have cheats that break the story, nothing to him. How about the original King of Dragons, Igneal? Surely he could do nothing. Everything short of Zeref's black magic itself is falling so endlessly short of Acnologia that there really isn't even a point to compare. So what exactly does Acnologia scale to? And for this, surprisingly, I'd say there are really three main interpretations, and I'll tell you why I think one of those is too high for base Acno in a bit. On the lowest end, you can scale Acno way above the likes of Irene's Meteor feat, Wall's Assault Mode Pocket Etherion, and all of the other earlier feats from weaker characters in the series. This would put him bare minimum at large country level to continental, which I think is about as gross of a lowball as could possibly be acceptable if you just really dislike using statements in movie scaling. The Phoenix, featured in the Phoenix Priestess film, which was approved by the author, is stated to have magic on par with Zeref, and then, on at least 3 separate occasions, is stated to be able to destroy the entire world. This is backed up further by the sequel film, Dragon Cries, stating a similarly powerful artifact of the titular name was equal to dozens of Etherion blasts going off all at once, with power to threaten the whole world. And as I mentioned, Acnologia is just blatantly stronger than Zeref and should scale to these two legendary artifacts as such. However, when these feats are brought up, it always brings up the dreadful contention of, are they planet level or are they multi-continental? With statements, it's usually just up to discretion and consistency. However, we do fortunately get good on-screen yields for both of these things. So I'm actually going to firmly lean towards multi-continental scaling for these. Let me explain why though. In the Phoenix Priestess film, it is stated that after the Phoenix destroys the world with a single magical attack, it would then rise from the ashes anew. This implies not that the world would be fractured beyond repair, but instead that the surface would be wiped clean with only the ashes and the Phoenix remaining. And of course, while Dragon Cry can be anywhere from 12 to 96 times the Etherion Blast, even if we highball that base blast to large country level, it still wouldn't calc out to planet level. The reason that it must be within this range is because the characters say dozens instead of hundreds of times, which implies less than 100. Duh. With that interpretation firmly in mind though, a lot of lore really does start to back it up. There's a plethora of statements in which Acnologia and other weaker characters than himself threaten to destroy the world, and with weaker characters who he could easily one-shot already scaling upwards of large country level minimum, I'd say Acnologia being multi-continental in base is super duper consistent, with higher being debatable through the use of 100-year quest feats, which we'll ignore for the scope of this video. But now, let's move on to the King of Beasts himself, Kaido. I'm probably starting to sound like a broken record at this point for anyone who's been watching my content for long, but to quickly gloss over lowball interpretations, characters who are absolutely fodder one-shottable diff to Kaido have all shown the capacity to level mountains, islands, countries, and even potentially split continents straight in two. With these feats backed up by Whitebeard's statement of being able to destroy the world, Blackbeard's similar statements regarding the ancient weapons as a planetary threat, characters like Base Kaido and Luffy being able to split the seas and sky, and also, probably the most blatant, Luffy's Pajuron gun, which would have taken out Onigashima just by hitting Kaido, with its full impact triggering seismic volcanic activity. All of these feats and statements casually place Kaido in the continental to multi-continental range, just same as Acnologia, but of course, to be fair to Fairy Tail fans, I'll also quickly debunk some higher metas for Kaido. People who believe in planet level One Piece value statements far too much over provable fact, usually pointing to old Whitebeard, claiming he's weak compared to the other emperors, and then trying to upscale Kaido into some absurdity like large planet level. When, in reality, old Whitebeard is still equal to the other Yonko, as he clashes with Shanks and still scares Big Mom to the point of not invading his territory in the light novels. Couple this with the fact that there are many data books and other outside sources refuting planetary Whitebeard, and I would say that it's far more likely that the full power of his tremors can simply shake the world's surface. This line of thinking is backed up by the series calling the Guruguru no Mi the strongest paramecia, and Blackbeard claiming to be able to replicate similar feats immediately after eating it. Once we get some better feats for One Piece though, maybe we can talk about planet level. But of course, for the strange individuals out there who try to say One Piece's planet is the size of a star because of some random river, no outside sources to back this claim up, you're a different breed of crazy, but keep it up. Maybe you'll stumble into some universal meta if you look hard enough. But now, the fight. How would a clash between these two godlike powerhouses actually go down? In terms of speed and hacks categories, these two are basically dead even, with one advantage over the other apiece. Both scale massively above earlier FTL characters to the point of easily no-diffing and one-shotting them, with the likes of Acno's other dragon rivals being able to cross continents in seconds, and Kaido himself being just as fast as the likes of old Whitebeard, who could easily square off with FTL Kizaru. But in terms of advantages, Acnologia likely has a slight edge in terms of both raw firepower, a big edge in experience, and a mastered Dragon Slayer magic, which, as you might guess, plays a huge role in a fight with a dragon. Acnologia, with his Dragon Slayer magic, should basically be given access to a cheat code for beating a dragon, both by being immune to their magic, by consuming their elements, but also by super effective attacks overriding their insane dragon durability. For the latter claim, there's 3 different ways you could really interpret how Dragon Slayer attacking magic would actually affect Kaido. The first interpretation is that Acno's magic isn't super effective because Kaido isn't a dragon at birth. The second interpretation is that Acno's magic is super effective because devil fruits make you into the actual thing they describe. The third, and probably most funny interpretation, is that Acno's magic isn't super effective because Kaido is a koi fish by definition, not a dragon. I unironically believe all 3 metas are pretty valid, so I'll give you 2 interpretations based on Kaido's advantages, which are durability and advanced haki. Unlike Acnologia, who had his whole arm torn off by someone weaker than himself, Kaido has regularly tanked insane beatings. Seriously, these beatings straight up look like something out of Tom and Jerry, guys. But they accomplish that through the use of magical haki energy, which by nature bypasses his greatest defense, the Dragon Scales, something Acnologia couldn't do as he doesn't have advanced haki. But Kaido does, and advanced haki grants Kaido 2 huge edges. One is speed. With Future Sight Haki, an advanced application of Observation's precognition ability, Kaido will know everything Acno's about to do, and with similar speed, that's a big plus for Kaido. The second is AP. With Kaido using advanced armament or Conqueror's coding, his attacks not only gain a massive range, being able to straight up miss their target and still connect with the emitted haki, but also, this allows Kaido to basically inject all of his AP straight into someone's organs, where they are least durable. Now, a lot of people call this durability negation, when it really isn't for most verses, considering Acnologia still has a magic protecting his organs. However, it is resistance negation, as Acnologia's dragon scales are rendered completely useless here by Kaido's strongest attacks, basically giving Acnologia the same durability as in his human form, if not just slightly better. So in a one-on-one fight with both of them being so close in stats, it basically comes down to raw battling experience. And while yes, Acnologia is over 400 years old, in a human form versus human form confrontation, he'd have no way to get close enough without being repeatedly slammed by Kaido's Thunder Bagua, as Acno would struggle to detect and distinguish it in any meaningful way from a regular attack. In Dragon Form versus Dragon Form, however, Acno would actually have the edge by way of his superior firepower and complete immunity to Kaido's fiery attacks. This would leave Kaido in a tricky spot, with nothing to fall back upon but his hybrid form and his full Haki powers. But as Kaido himself says, Devil Fruit powers aren't enough to conquer these seas, and only a master of Haki can truly determine who would be the king. And I think that's completely true here. While Acno would basically be completely undefeatable if Kaido tried to rely on his Dragon Fruit powers, especially if you think he's weak to Dragon Slayer magic, with Kaido being as adaptable as he is, plus seeing the literal future, he would rely on his impenetrable hybrid form, armament-coated, dragon-scale skin to tank Acno's physical blows and bring this fight into the realm of a slugfest. And with what Kaido lacks in raw AP, he makes up for in straight resistance nullification, making Acno's dragon body look more and more like tissue paper as he takes repeated hits. And while Kaido definitely wouldn't leave without a few new scars, because of Acno's insane experience in raw AP, with Acno debatably not even being able to see Conqueror's coding, he would just struggle too much to react to it, and eventually succumb to the internal damage of a Ragnarok. Guess that's why they say, though, that if it's one-on-one, you always bet on Kaido. But in the end, you're all the judge, so tell me, how did I do? You agree with my take? Is Kaido too much for Acno, or am I just downplaying Fairy Tail? Let me know in the comments, and while you're down there, let me know if there's a series or topic you'd love to see covered. Be sure to hit some of those buttons or follow the card before you go. And that's all for today. Thanks.